On behalf of the Trump campaign is Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. And this weekend, Donald Trump again railed, as you saw, against his guilty verdict handed down by that Manhattan jury last month. He has said he's going to appeal the verdict. He has also asked House Speaker Mike Johnson to overturn his conviction. Why should Congress intervene on Donald Trump's behalf rather than letting the judicial process play out?
Well, first of all, it's good to be with you. One very important thing, it's not about Speaker Johnson. He doesn't have that power to overturn anything. But what it's about is that Congress does fund a lot of jurisdictions around the country. And if there is a jurisdiction that takes federal money and it does not also protect the constitutional rights of all Americans, whether that's President Trump or any other American, they shouldn't receive federal funds. I think that's something that every American would agree with. And you do have to understand President Trump's frustration. What happened in Lower Manhattan was a violation of his constitutional rights. They didn't even identify the crime, quote unquote, until the very end of the process, which is a violation of constitutional norms. Judge Merchan did not do that. And so, yes, he's frustrated. Any American would be frustrated.
And Congressman, to be clear, this was obviously a state case. He was indicted by a grand jury of New Yorkers. It was a jury of his peers in New York that found him guilty. The president, former president, has called himself a political prisoner, but of course he had legal representation. He has the right to appeal. He's neither been detained nor imprisoned. So why not just let the judicial process play out?
Well, let's go back before you go down that line. In the original indictment, they never identified an underlying crime. Under our Bill of Rights, under our rule of law, a defendant is entitled to know what he's being charged with. Donald Trump was never afforded that ability. So how can his legal team prepare a defense if you don't even know what the actual crime is? That is why what happened in Lower Manhattan was so terrible. And the only time the prosecution could even assert a crime was at the end of the case, in closing arguments. You're not allowed to do that.
And sir,
every judge knows this. This is why everybody believes this is going to be overturned on appeal, but
so
it is meant to interfere with the presidential election. That is the problem.
If it is overturned, I apologize for the satellite delay. If it is overturned on appeal, will you accept that verdict?
Understand what I'm trying to explain to you. This is being done for political purposes. Everybody knows how the court system works in New York.
But will you accept the verdict if it's appealed?
The only ability for this to be overturned is going to be happening 2 or 3 years from now. We all know this. That's why what happened in Lower Manhattan was to interfere with an election, which is why Speaker Johnson, myself included, and many Americans believe the Supreme Court should step into this matter.
And to be clear, Joe Biden, there is no evidence that he had anything to do with this case. The Manhattan DA, as you know, began this investigation in 2018 before Joe Biden was even his party's nominee. I want to ask you about specifically what we've been hearing from Republicans and from Donald Trump, claiming the Democrats are illegally weaponizing the Justice Department against Mr. Trump. Why is it appropriate for Donald Trump then to call for prosecuting his political opponents, including President Biden?
Well, let me also explain this one. Now, what he did say is that we have always had this kind of a gentleman's agreement that you do not go after the political leaders of the opposition party. When Donald Trump was president, he didn't have his attorney generals go after Hillary Clinton when she did violate the Espionage Act. He did not give that order. They did not go and prosecute Hillary Clinton. But now you have a situation where Main Justice has weaponized the Justice Department to go after Donald Trump. You have Jack Smith, who's chasing down Donald Trump on violating the Espionage Act, but at the same time, Robert Hur knows that President Biden has violated the Espionage Act. Robert Hur is not prosecuting Joe Biden. Jack Smith is trying to prosecute Donald Trump.
Let me interrupt briefly, though. The Biden Justice Department obviously is also prosecuting Democrats. Robert Menendez of New Jersey, Henry Cuellar of Texas right now. They just prosecuted Hunter Biden as well. So is it only weaponization when it is Republicans that are being prosecuted?
That's not true, and that's not even the same thing we're talking about here. What you got to understand is
they prosecuted both Democrats and Republicans. So I think Americans would say, isn't that equal justice?
Bob Menendez has gold bars with his name engraved on them from a foreign country. So that's what Bob Menendez's situation is. Henry Cuellar's situation just got into investigation. But it is without a doubt that these legal cases were all brought in the middle of a presidential election for one purpose, and that is to criminalize Donald Trump, that is to polarize Donald Trump, that is to persecute Donald Trump. That's the only reason why you even bring these cases in the time frame that they're being brought.
And again, there's been a series of cases against Democrats as well.